This is the Dallas Morning News.
The presenting sponsor for the Intersections podcast is Lynn, Pinker, Hurst, and Schwegman. Built on a culture of winning, these trial lawyers have proven experience, elite preparation, and relentless focus in the areas of commercial, intellectual property, and employment litigation. Visit Lynn LLP to learn more. And thank you so much to the Lynn, Pinker, Hurst, and Schwegman Group for all you're doing to support the Intersections podcast. This episode is brought to you in partnership by Clay Cooley Automotive, family-owned, family-operated automotive company serving the local DFW Metroplex for over 22 years. Clay, thank you for all you're doing to make Intersections possible.
Headquartered in Dallas, Texas, Arcus Golf is a premier owner and operator of nearly 90 private, resort, and daily fee courses in the U.S., including Cowboys Golf Club, the world's first and only NFL-themed golf club, and 8 other courses right here in the DFW Metroplex. Arcus is an innovative industry leader providing unrivaled lifestyle amenities that complement exceptional golf offerings. To learn more, visit arcusgolf.com, and thank you to the Arcus team for all that you do to make Intersections happen.
Kyle, this was really interesting. Rob Holmes, who is the chairman, the president, and CEO of Texas Capital Bank, tells a fascinating story of taking an institution that was against the wall and really transforming it in so many different ways. From a strategic standpoint, talking about the people, changing 90% of the people in a large organization, that's almost unheard of. And on top of that, seeing his leadership skills. I thought it was fascinating.
Great conversation. A depth and breadth of a banking career that is really unmatched by many. You speak to the turnaround at TCB. What really got me was the story about his cancer and how he changed his thought patterns and his leadership and how that really influenced his personal and professional and spiritual life. Welcome to Intersections, where we take a multi-generational look at the critical issues facing America. Tom, introduce our guest.
Rob Holmes. Rob is the chairman, the president, and the chief executive officer of Texas Capital Bank, one of the more significant regional banks in this area and one that has taken, since he came on board in 2021, a real elevation. 31 years at JP Morgan Chase, and then came back, as we'll talk about, home. So, Rob, thanks for being with us, first of all.
Really happy to be here.
Okay, 31 years. You rose to head up the global bank. So you were the kind of the king of mid-size lending. Over 20 nations you were involved in across the globe. $180 billion, worth of portfolio. But then you decide to come back home, take on a challenging regional bank at that time.
That was very gracious, challenging.
So why?
Well, I guess there's a lot of reasons. Timing, as you know, has a lot to do with most decisions in your life. In 2019, I just beat cancer, which was described to me in a text when I was told I had it. It was an incurable, aggressive cancer.
And you heard that in a text?
My surgeon said that he knew I traveled a lot. It is a second surgery, and he had everything tested, and he couldn't get hold of me. He's going to surgery for 13 hours, and he didn't want me to leave town because he knew I left all the time. He said, I can't have you leave town.
That's
so he told me a
text to receive.
So I sold it. First thing I did is I forwarded it to my older brother, who's the head of tax oncology at Baylor, and he called me, said, "You okay?" And I said, "I don't want to talk about that. I want to ask you if you send texts like this to your clients." And he said, "No. I love my surgery. He saved my life." But I just beat cancer, which was a pretty impressionable moment in your life. It makes you take stock. And then COVID showed up. And so I found myself with my son, who was doing an internship, basically remote for Goldman Sachs, and me at our house in Montana for the summer. And I got a call from Bill Rose, who's the chairman and CEO of AutoZone. Mm-hmm. And Bill is a good friend. Has been a good friend a long time. I ran the retail investment banking business at JP Morgan and knew him from that. And he said, "I want you to talk to a friend of mine." And I said, "Sure." And I thought he wanted me to endorse him for some club. And So I talked to this guy, and I found out he lived in Dallas, and I said, okay, well, this is great. Bye. He said, hold on. I know you don't ever take headhunter calls, so I had to get Bill to get on the phone with you. And I thought, why in the hell would I go run? No, I don't have any interest at all. And he said, well, would you talk to our chairman? And I said, I return every call every day. If he wants to call me, he can. And I didn't think anything was going to come of it, and I didn't want anything to come of it. And I had a conversation, and he was very candid with what he knew about the bank's position, which I love him dearly, but they didn't know how bad it was. Mm-hmm. And then I kind of confide in several friends, all the names you know that are leaders in the state and city and have banking backgrounds. I said, 22 countries in community New York, and after COVID and cancer, and kids are getting married. It might be nice to come home and run a bank. And so I decided to do it. And when I did decide to do it, I was in a rent house because we were building an empty nester house. And it was 6:30 in the morning when I called Jamie to resign. And my wife came in a little while later, and she opened the door to the study. She said, how'd it go? And I said, not great. And she said, well, when did you think it was a good idea to leave J.P. Morgan Chase during a global pandemic to go turn around a failed regional bank? Slammed the door and walked out. And I said, thanks, babe. Love you too. Yeah. So anyway, that's kind of how it happened.
Okay. Well, two pieces that come out of that that I had to pursue. First, walk us through the cancer. That's you're a young man. That's a tough diagnosis, especially when they say terminal. Yep. Facing that, not only kind of the medical side of it, but more the psychological, just dealing with that, with all the other responsibilities of a $180 billion portfolio that you're responsible for.
Well, it's interesting that you said what you said, Tom, because it's, to me, what I learned going through that is it's just as much psychological as it is physical, and certainly spiritual. So we can talk about that too. But so I was walking downstairs from the partners' dining room at J.P. Morgan Chase's headquarters in New York to my office with a couple of guys, and my legs shook walking downstairs. And I didn't want them to see that. So I said, oh, you guys go ahead, I'll be down in a second. And then a couple of days later, walking downstairs, my legs shook again. Then it happened a couple more times. And I had done a eulogy for a good friend of mine who died of ALS some years before. And so I was a little nervous. And because he found out he had ALS by limp, people noticed a limp. And so I went to a great neuro doctor here in town, and we got everything checked.
So you did it here, not at Sloan Kettering?
I went there later. So I went to do all the testing here, and he said, Rob—
Why here when you're living in New York?
Well, I would never live in New York. I commuted.
Okay.
I commuted in New York. My wife and kids never left, which is a whole nother challenge. But 36 years happily married, still going strong. So that took care of itself. And all my kids, and we all still love each other. So it worked out great. So I went here, and the doctor basically said, look, I tell people to come see me 1 of 5 things. You have one of these 4 things, or I don't know. And with you, I don't know. But the good news is you don't have those 4 really bad things. And but go get your thyroid checked because it's odd. So I did a diagnosis on the thyroid, and it was negative. And a year later, I showed up to get an MRI, and I said, why am I here? And they said, you're supposed to get the thyroid checked. So it turns out I had thyroid cancer, had grown 30%. Well, thyroid cancer is the Cadillac of cancers because it's curable, period, like 10 out of 10 times, unless you have Hürthle cell carcinoma. And so we went through a 5-hour surgery and stuff, but and then another surgery, and then I went to Sloan Kettering, and I'll tell you the first call inbound I had, and I don't know how this happened, when I had cancer was from Jamie and Diamond, and he a great leadership lesson. 2 things. When I found out people had cancer, I kind of like, he's got cancer. Don't talk about it. Jay picked up the phone and called me because he had just beat cancer, a horrible cancer, throat cancer. which really caused a lot of problems with his aorta and thyroid and other things. But when he called me, here's a second lesson. All he said was, tell me about it. He didn't call me and say, here's what you're going to do. Here's what I did. All he said was, tell me about it. And then he didn't say a word, I think, for about 10 minutes. And I still don't know what I said to him. I hope I didn't embarrass myself because I had a lot of things going through my mind. So that was a real lesson. Another lesson is my nephew had cancer when he was 3 to 5 years old, and it was serious. And my little brother used to say, "You don't want to find out about your faith on the 10th floor of Children's. You want to go in knowing what your faith is." And that's kind of how I feel about cancer too. And I thought I had a pretty strong faith.
Yeah. What did you believe pre-cancer and what did you believe post-cancer?
Well, I thought I fully believed pre-cancer, and I was a committed Christian, a failed committed Christian like all of us, but I was doing the best I could on my journey. But with cancer, when you think you're going to go meet in person, it takes on a whole new meaning. And I went through a little bit of a transformation during that time where I really searched. I mean, deep meaning, books and even music and dialogue and et cetera. And I've got a heads up on most people. My little brother's a pastor, and I got a lot of connections, but you got to do that journey yourself. And looking back on it, my wife will tell you that she thinks that was maybe some of the happiest times of my life when I was that immersed. I was calm. I wasn't uptight. I was just fine. But it was a difficult period. And then another lesson is really, really worry about the caregivers, not the patient. So we were in New York, is at Sloan Kettering. There's one clinical doctor in the U.S. worthy of going to see if you have Hürthle cell carcinoma. And he's now the head of medicine at Sloan Kettering. But before, he was kind of Hürthle cell. And Hürthle cell is so rare that when I walked in to see him, by the way, that was a God thing, getting in to see him and finding him, by the way. Total God thing, and we don't have time to talk about it, but I was lucky or blessed. And when I walked in the door to his office, he said, it may be good news and may be bad news, but the frustration of not knowing going forward is behind you because I'm the guy. And we went through a lot of tests and stuff, and one night he said, where y'all going to dinner? This was in New York City, obviously. And I said, we're going to Sistina because I know the chef and he'll make this horrible meal that you only let me eat, getting ready for all these things. And I know he'll stick to it. So we're going there. He goes, wait till 8. I said, fine. So we're sitting at the bar waiting till 8. He goes, I'm going to call you and tell you either this is a Thursday, you're going to come back Monday and we're getting after it, or you're cured and I'll see you in 6 months. And so I'm sitting at a bar in Sistina, waiting for a call, telling me what my whole future is going to be. And the call came. He's a wonderful guy. And the call came, and he's just laughing. And I didn't realize the whole bar kind of been listening to the conversation. Me and the bartender, my wife, and the owner, they went crazy. The whole bar just went nuts. And so, we had a nice dinner, went home. And I'm very close.
Needless to say, it was the latter was the answer.
Yes, exactly. And we had a really nice dinner, went back, and I always tip the doorman at the hotel that I stay at every time I go to New York an ice cream from next door. Everybody else tips them dollars. I tip them ice cream. I go buy $100 ice cream, little individual things every night, snow, rain, or shine. And I brought them all ice cream. They're like, oh, no, Mr. Holmes, no ice cream tonight. We heard you're here for health. I said, I'm good. And we had a blast.
So I want to hit on one other thing here because you've mentioned leadership lessons a couple times. How did you lead prior to the diagnosis, and how has the diagnosis and you beating it changed your leadership with people around you?
God, that's a great question. So many things happened in that time frame, from cancer, COVID, and changing professions, that I'm not sure what part changed me or even my growth spiritually.
But cumulative, how did those change you? How did it change the leadership?
I think my perspective is much broader and wider. So when I make a decision, I have the ability now to look at further left and right and more longer term. I think that I've always been candid. Actually, it may sound opposite of more candor. The people that work for me call it violent candor. And plus when you're going through a transformation and you're and time matters, you don't have time for pleasantries. I mean, it's just like, we're just going to say it. And one coworker at JP Morgan said, Holmes, you like conflict. And I said, I actually hate conflict. I hate it. It makes me nervous. I don't like it. I want people to like me. But sometimes you got to have conflict to get behind you. Yeah. And I wanted it behind me. But I think purpose, so a broader perspective, longer term, you don't have time to go through motions. Like, are you accomplishing what you said you're going to accomplish? Accountability. I guess time matters, I guess, and that relates to leadership. Great
comment on deal with the conflict, get it behind, and then move forward. Because I don't think many people or many leaders actually do that. I think it's tending to push it off.
Well, if you do a turnaround, you learn you need to do that pretty fast.
Yeah, you don't have time.
At JP Morgan, there's a big support group. And if you're not doing very well, your partner to your left or your right can carry your water flow well. If you're leading a transformation, you're responsible for 2,000 people, and whether they're going to survive or not, you don't worry about conflict.
Okay. Well, let's jump into that. But my second one was, tell us about the phone call with Jamie saying, I'm heading to Texas.
Oh, he just didn't understand it. He said, like you, he's like, okay, wait a sec. I'll let you live in Texas this whole time. We're doing great. You're doing great. I just don't understand. And Petno, who I called first, said, you got to talk to Jamie. And because Doug and I've been.
Doug was the president of the bank, reported Jamie.
He's now basically the head of banking for JP Morgan globally. But he was head of commercial bank at that point, and we grew up together in the investment bank because I grew up in the investment bank before the large corporate bank. And he's a wonderful human, a great guy, and supported me throughout this whole thing too. But when Jamie knew I was leaving, he then said, "Okay, fine. If you're going to leave, I'm going to coach you. Call me every 8 weeks. And I'm going to teach you how to be a public company CEO." And so I did, and we talked probably for the first 12 months, every 8 weeks. And then I said, "This is getting a little odd, isn't it?" He goes, "Yeah, I'll see you at the next CEO conference." That's okay. But, he's been wonderful, like during, right after SVB. So SVB was that Thursday, Friday.
Right. It was
that next Wednesday.
Silicon Valley Bank.
March 23.
Went down.
Silicon Valley Bank, First Republic, Signature. He called me, said, "How you doing?" And I said, "Man, this is fun." And he said, "Have you done these 6 things?" And I said, "Yes," to all of them. And he said, "Call me if you need me." And I hung up, and I was thinking, does he really think I would have admitted if I hadn't done one of those things? But we ended up being really, really great during that time period. As a matter of fact, I think that's when the trajectory of the bank took off. Yeah. We went on total offense. And that's something I learned at JP Morgan. Like, you're not going to gain share in banking during the good times because we're not going to compete on price or structure because we can't. So we're going to compete on being front-footed with a lot of capital with great ideas. And when you gain share, that's in times of downturn.
Yep. So while we're talking about Jamie, iconic figure, changed banking, clearly put JP Morgan Chase on a different plane within United States banking, probably global banking. What was it like to work with him, and what did you get out of it just over the years in addition to kind of the every 8 weeks mentoring?
Over the years, well, I would say that I think I got more out of the environment Jamie created, which was much broader than just Jamie, which is a lesson in and of itself, the routines and cadences. And I brought most of that to my style of that to the firm today. And you got to have the right routines and cadences and communication for anything to really work, right? There could be a great group of talented people, but if they're not in the right routines with the right cadences and the right conversations, no meetings before a meeting, say it in the meeting, such as that kind of thing. If you're not
No
prepared,
surprises?
no surprises, but certainly don't come unprepared. So you do a QBR with Jamie or Doug or anybody or somebody with me at JP Morgan, if you're not prepared, that's a problem. And so we're not wasting time in meetings. We don't talk about good things. We just talk about the bad thing. Like we can celebrate the good things, but not in leadership meetings. In leadership meetings are working on problems. You're celebrating good things with your employees, your partners, and your clients. And so it's really focused on what needs to be focused on, not the good things. But again, candor, accountability, and you got to know your business better than anybody. Like I still today, if my CFO, and I know they may listen to this, so I know they'll hold me accountable, but if my CFO or head of investment banking or sales and trading, if they know more about their business than me, then that's a problem. Now, they need to, but I should assume that I need to know as much as them, period. Now, maybe I don't in some nuances of the business because part of what I hope to do is hire everybody that works for me is smarter than me currently, which is a blessing.
Fascinating.
So let's unwrap the TCB. So you come in January of 2021. The bank has gone sideways. I think that was actually the word you used. There's a failed merger along the way and numerous other missteps. When you came in, you clearly understood the general situation. But what were the surprises? When you came in, what was all of a sudden, now I'm here, and they never told me that?
Well, this is a little humbling since I'm going to say it on a podcast. I made a mistake. I should have taken the job. So the bank...
Repeat what you just said.
I would not have taken the job had I known how bad it was. So I had a family. I had invested a bunch of money in stock.
Mm-hmm.
I had reputation, credibility. My life was great. And then you commit yourself to this, and it's worse than you think. So it was monoline reporting, SEC compliant, zero rates. You couldn't really tell how bad the bank was. And by the way, the head of FIG at Morgan Stanley and the ex-COO of JP Morgan, who Jamie says is the best risk person on Wall Street, who unwound the London whale for him, all looked at it with me and we missed it. So I might not be very smart, but they aren't either.
So what was it that got missed?
What'd they miss? Yeah.
Because the people at JP Morgan let me leave on such good terms, I didn't ask for any break and garden leave or anything, even though I was becoming CEO, and which is very odd. But it was COVID, people work from home. Sure. You could read, you could learn, you couldn't manage or make decisions or solicit clients or employees. And out of respect to everybody, we lived by that. But that didn't mean I didn't learn. So I spent the next 3 months meeting people all over the firm, all over the state, all over anything that had to do with the bank, and really digging in. And by the time I started, I knew where we were. And so I called the board together the first morning, and I said, I'm going to have a board meeting. You don't have to come. It's not formal. But if you want to listen, I'm going to communicate what I've learned during garden leave. And so I had a sheet of paper, fully written, and basically said, tech's a problem. We got a lot of tech debt's not working. Mm-hmm. Ops is built wrong. We got to fix ops. Capital, don't have enough. Liquidity, it's poor. Our liabilities, not great quality. Our products are bad. Our service is bad. Our clients aren't who we want to bank. And the worst part about the whole thing is the culture. Everybody I talked to during that time said, I'm really smart. what I do at that bank, we're good. Everybody else, you need to go fix. I just never seen anybody that, and so we got after it. And in the first 8 weeks, we did a perpetual preferred deal, a sub-debt deal, a securitization. We improved the capital by about 270 basis points, got out of a little business too. I revamped the entire operating committee.
Yeah.
I brought in the woman who ran treasury management for Chase globally, it's a commercial bank. Brought in the guy that ran ops, who ran ops for State O'Neill at Merrill
And
Lynch.
Chase didn't object to that.
She was retired, newly retired. Brought in the guy that ran risk for all of JP Morgan's investment bank in North America, newly retired. They had both worked with or for me at JP Morgan. And then the CHRO came in from Celanese, which is a great big company, is complex. So we were able to attract this group of talent that could work at any money center bank to come to this little at the time, $40 billion bank. And we could talk about why or how, but that was a real blessing.
Okay, let's drill down a little bit. Most publications are going to tell the story and say you replaced 90% of the senior leaders.
No, I replaced 90% of the employees.
90% of the employees.
Since the day I started till the day, 90% of the employees are new.
That's an unbelievable number. I'm not sure I have ever heard that sort of a transformation or a flip. That's
pretty
incredible.
brutal. Yeah, I mean, you've got to get like-minded people, right? And so JP Morgan, we built JP Morgan. It was the first organically built investment bank in a money center bank. Every other money center bank bought it. We built it. We built it through bank syndications, then high yield, then M&A, then investment grade debt, and then equities. Everybody was like, "Oh, what's the culture like? What's culture?" Yeah. Culture was like-minded people.
Yeah.
And then it eventually became its own JP Morgan culture. And that's what this was. We were very clear from day one. So September of 21, we came out publicly and said, because what we really needed to do was restore credibility with investors, regulators, shareholders, employees, and clients. Everyone. And so we came out September 1st, 2021. I told the board the stock was going to go down 5 to 7%. I went down 9. I then told them I overachieved. and I basically said, we're a bad company. And here are the 6 things that are the problem. Here's what we've done since I started. And here's what we're going to do, but it's going to take me till the back half of 25. I can't do it sooner than that. And people were just up in arms. We can't buy the stock. You're doing that long. You can't. Nobody's ever done that before. You can't do that. We did it. And then every quarter, we told the street and the board and our employees, we were very transparent. Told everybody
where you were.
Here's what we're going to do this quarter. And then in every board meeting, and we said, here's what we did last quarter. We told you what we're going to do, and here's what we got done. What we did. And slowly but surely, the reason the transformation worked is to this day, we haven't missed on a promise.
In fact, your look ahead in 2025 was promises kept.
Promises kept.
So what did you anchor on? What were the core values that brought all these new like-minded people together? I mean, 90% is a big number, obviously.
Yeah. Well,
what'd you anchor on?
The real blessing, once you had 9 months to look at it, it was literally Catherine, the treasurer at the time, who's now our CFO, and me sitting in a room like, what are we going to make this place? And I said, well, I want to make it. What do the best financial firms in the world have in common? And some of those things are capital, resiliency, operating resiliency. They have at least 20% of fee income of their income. They compete on talent. They don't try to pay people less to do margin. So they'll have less people and pay them more. There's just a lot of things we put together. And so we said, we're going to become the first full-service financial services firm ever headquartered in Texas. So think about that. Let that wash over you. In the 80s, we had these great banks that all failed, but Glass-Steagall was then, and they didn't have security rights. Well, today, so everybody that came into Texas was from out of state that could do those things. Cullen/Frost had their license for 10 or 12 years and gave it back. So no bank ever tried to do this before. No bank was so. But what we had were some really bad businesses that became really our golden ticket. 42% of our assets was a mortgage warehouse. A mortgage warehouse is a business you never want. You compete on price, dumbest guy wins, and when rates go up, it goes down. And you don't get paid any value for it in the market. Well, that's a problem. It's 42% of my business.
It's tough.
And my best clients are mortgage clients. So I want to get rid of the mortgage warehouse. I'm going to fire all my best clients. Nope. To build an investment bank, you have to have the one thing, the barrier to entry is distribution. You have to have sales and trading. We did $110 billion a year in financing mortgages. We're the 5th largest mortgage warehouse in the country. I went and hired the best mortgage trader on Wall Street outside of a primary dealer. Matter of fact, I got a call from a longtime board member of JP Morgan telling me I have a problem because I did that, not with JP Morgan, but a new board he was on. I mean, he was a name brand. Yeah. Brought him down here. We opened a mortgage trading desk that does TBAs, whole loan trading, spec pool trading, and the like. That allowed us to get open with every primary dealer in a month. The whole barrier to entry is you can't get on primary dealers. Mm-hmm. Then we opened with a credit desk. We're now the 6th to 10th largest mortgage trading desk on Wall Street. Our credit trading desk, we originated the largest sole managed debt deal in the country each of the last 3 years, $1.2 billion, $1.4 billion, $1.2 billion. We
total last year about $30 billion worth of debt.
$30 billion of institutional and private credit origination.
Mm-hmm. Big number.
Yeah, for us, it's a big number. This is from zero. Mm-hmm. And then $19 billion of syndicated bank debt, which made us number 2 in the country of leading middle market bank debt. We then opened a structured products business where we back lever securitizations for firms like Fortress and others, which is great. And then we opened a public finance desk that is the fastest growing de novo public finance desk in the country ever, based on what our financial partners tell us. And then the last day of the second quarter of last year, we started trading equities. Started making markets next in the third quarter. We're on the cover of 5 IPOs in the fourth quarter. The first quarter of this year, we led the first sole managed public equity offering we think ever led by a Texas-based firm. We have over 100 companies under research. So the investment bank is doing pretty well.
I want to go through all the pieces, kind of the strategic changes that you made. So we'll do that, and you led in that. But I want to come back to this culture piece. Mm-hmm. Change out 90% of the people. How did you mold that culture? Because in part, you're bringing people in from Citi, you're bringing people in from Global, from Goldman Sachs, Chase, et cetera. Those are organizations that have pretty distinctive cultures. Cultures that don't necessarily meld with the other organizations that I listed. Mm-hmm. So as the leader, talk a little bit about how you take all these kind of divergent personalities, backgrounds, expertises, and put them together in a culture that drives where you want to go.
I don't think there's any easy way to explain that. I think the way I tried to do it is we talk today about our values and what we want to do the exact same way as we did 5 years ago. A lot of reasons these transformations don't work in banking is because go back and look. It's the industry is riddled with transformations that the company reported out on for about 2 quarters and quit. We've been reporting out on it for over 5 years, and our words haven't changed, our intent hadn't changed, our processes hadn't changed, our routines hadn't changed. It's very consistent.
Commitment, discipline.
And communication. Mm-hmm. And the one thing that I learned, I thought people didn't want to hear from us early on, like go get your work done, whatever. And I thought talking to the employees once a month was plenty. Well, we started talking a lot more. And then we started putting bank notes up online. Then we started, So you got to over communicate. And if you say it once, they don't hear you. If you say it 10 times, they might. If they've heard it for 3 years, they hear you.
It's the old Jack Welch. Nobody will listen to it until you say it 30 times.
Okay, well, Well, if Jack said, I probably would have listened to it the second time. But I think that was really, really important, is just we never changed. People that interviewed with us for the past 4 years have said, I want the job. And I was like, why? They said, because everybody I interviewed with says the exact same things, exact same words. And I thought, that's pretty cool. I mean, that's pretty cool. And now, for a firm that, nobody wanted to come work for, our junior program, we hired 24 this year, 3,800 qualified applications.
Wow.
In the investment bank, with 10 spots for juniors, we have, last time I checked, which was a month ago, 1,800 applications. So the word's out, and it's kind of fun. Now, another thing I did, Tom, and Kyle, just so you know, when I interviewed people to come work for me directly, or maybe one down, I literally, and I was sincere when I said it, I told them they shouldn't come. I said, it's going to be harder than anything you've ever done. It's, you're used to a bigger firm where you have resources and you have teams to do what you want them to do. Here, you're the one doing it. And it's not fun, and it's work, and it's stress, and hadn't been done before. And most of the people are rooting for you to fail and laughing at you, which kind of drives me, but doesn't drive everybody. And there's a lot of people that say they want to be part of transformation and they want to do that. There's very few that really do, because it is harder. Like this isn't saying anything bad about JP Morgan, because, a lot of my best friends are there. But the same job there is just easier than it is here. That's fact.
So understand the 10 spots for 1,800 applications that today, because you've got a great track record. But going back, I guess it still begs the question of, you're interviewing somebody and you tell them, I wish I hadn't have come here. I made a mistake.
I didn't tell them that.
Hopefully you didn't say that. Yeah.
The bank is worse than I expected it to be, and it's in really bad shape. And can't convince you exactly where we're going to go, but I'm committed. How did you get those people? I mean,
I think
clearly you got good people, but how?
I think that's how. I think that they had somebody that was honest with them, had somebody that told them a clear direction of where we're going to go, told them how we're going to go, told them we were going to be financially very, very conservative, but client very, very aggressive. And we wanted to build something that had never been built before. Who don't want to do that? Like, think about who I just told you I hired. All those people were later in career. They had grown up in large firms. They'd never done it themselves. So to end your career on doing it yourself and building a legacy, it was pretty.
It is, but you're asking them to be an entrepreneur when they've come from organizations that aren't particularly entrepreneurial.
Yep, that's fair. That's fair. I still stand by. I think that's why they came. I think they came because you were honest with them and you had a clear sense of direction.
So one of the strategic moves that you also made is that early on you moved everything to the cloud, all your tech infrastructure. Talk about why you did that, where the bank was lagging behind, and where you see that technology infrastructure today. What is it paying dividends? Is it not?
Yeah. So tech, we got so when we restructured the bank, we took out about 35% of our non-interest expense, which is the most of a bank's, controllable expense. And we reinvested about 40 to 45. We had negative operating leverage for like 2 years. Like, you don't do that in banking. And so hold my beer. I'll get back. And we took about, we spend about 30% of our tech spend today on engineers. I don't think we had an engineer on staff when I started.
And do you know how many people that is?
No. And what we never try to recreate is the banking platforms that are readily available, that are great, good. What we do want to control are client journeys. So before, we had tech that I couldn't even tell you what we had, truly. So our tech strategy was buy it and plug it in. But we'd buy it and plug it in, and then we'd buy another one that did the same thing and plug that in too. And there was not a cohesive strategic rationale for tech deployment and investment. What we wanted to build was a modern tech infrastructure that we could grow, we would never outgrow. So we moved everything to the cloud, fast, agile, modern. We built a service layer called Cortex, that covers all the platforms that we use. We have a surface layer. Over that called C360. So engineers can use all these different platforms, but they can use all of them because they have this surface layer that translates them. They don't have to be experts in them. Does that make sense? And you can use them all and utilize them. We have about 231 APIs now internally that we developed. We built a brand new database. So when I got there, we didn't know where our data was. Well, a bank has to protect data. We didn't know where the data was for us to protect. So today we have a new data platform called Big Sky. My CIO is suck up because I got a house in Big Sky. But we got it's a fantastic, wonderful. We have wonderful data today, and that allowed us to really transform. So if we buy a bank, we can plug it into 360 and run the platforms. We've got great data, and that takes us to today where we're focused, and that's AI. And so AI, what do you need for if you're a CEO today of any company and this isn't on the foremost of your mind every day, you're behind. But if you're a great CEO and you want to do AI and you don't have great data and you're not in the cloud and you don't have APIs, you're toast.
It's impossible. Yeah.
So we have all those things. I mean, you can buy it, but the price just going to keep going up, going up, going up. So we have our own.
So how many banks are in your position? I mean, you've identified a great position to be in.
I think very few. So very few because so many banks. Another reason we bet on this strategy to be a full service financial services firm, you got to be relevant to your client so your clients don't outgrow you. And if I'm making you a loan once every 3 years, am I relevant to you? You don't even remember me. I made you a loan. But if I'm your operating bank and I'm making you a loan and I'm doing your private wealth and I'm advising you on capital markets and my bankers go in and talk to you about, hi, Mr. Leppert, I'm not here to take a deposit or make a loan. I'm here to understand your capital need. Do you need private credit? Do you need institutional debt? Do you need high yield? Do you need a convert? Do you need equity? Do you need bank debt? Do you need a superior first lien? And then on treasury, we want to help you with improving your working capital and shrinking it and making your platform safer and more efficient and lowering your costs. And so we try to go with more added value to when you go see people. On that front, the Achilles heel of the firm was we don't have retail branches. That we were built like that. That was a decision made in 1989 when the doors opened. We were going to be branch light, and we were going to be a wholesale bank. So our cost of goods sold, by definition, is higher than if we were a rural consumer checking account bank. Yeah. We have a view.
You just don't have the demand deposits on the retail side.
We don't have the demand rate. Our deposits, our commercial deposits, are cheaper compared to other banks' commercial deposits. The commercial deposits are just more expensive than retail.
Yeah.
I have a strongly held view, as do others at our firm, that liabilities will become more and more commoditized every year. So what is the Achilles heel for us now, which is a higher cost of goods sold? We've built the platform to operate in that environment, and all these other banks are just NIM-only banks. They got a problem. And those NIM-only banks have been focused on dividend increases and other things every single year. So it's been hard to invest in tech. It's been hard to invest in these other things. So I do think a lot of them are behind. Some of them are ahead, doing great, but a lot of them are behind. And that's another key element to this. People talk about regional banks as if they're all one. Nothing's further from the truth. There are wonderful regional banks, and there's not very good regional banks. Do your homework. So, but like on Treasury, we knew how important liabilities were going to be. That's going to be the core to the foundation of the transformation. Our liabilities weren't very good before. We had 45% index deposits, meaning that was basically SVB. Today, it's dramatically less. Our liabilities are our clients' liabilities. We ripped our payments platform out of the Fed, put a new payments platform, a new lockbox, new merchant, new corporate card. We have APIs, we have real-time payments, we have real-time receipts. When real-time payments, real-time receipts are rolled out around the country, we'll be one of 75 banks out of 5,000 to have them. We're ISO compliant. We're delivering embedded banking to our clients. That business grows, if you're really good at it, 2% a year. Our business has been growing 20% quarter over quarter year, every quarter since January 22. People have moved to this bank in droves. We're now the number one lender to Texas business of any Texas-based bank. So that's the other, you said, how do we reallocate capital and change the businesses earlier, Tom? So we had the mortgage warehouse, 42%. Another 20+% was a company called Bank Direct. It's a premium finance company. Pretty good company if you have really cheap liabilities and you have a lot of them and you don't know where to invest them. Pretty poor decision to get in that business if you have highest cost of goods sold. And so we had to sell that thing. And in January—
Was that tough to convince a board that had bought it?
It was tough to convince the board to sell it because it's where we had earnings. But we didn't really have earnings there because we didn't allocate our damn costs all the way through the businesses. We were in the process of doing that. And so we made a lot of money, but we didn't have a lot of return. And so in January of 22, I told the board I was going to sell it. And there was a lot of skepticism, except one board member who I love and I will name nameless, he just started clapping in the board lunch, which was reassuring. And we sold the business. We got it ready for sale. We launched it. Labor Day, we had a letter of intent. This was Labor Day of 22. We sold it for $3+ billion. Had a $270 million premium to it. And we closed in November of 22, which totally recapitalized the bank.
Right. Yeah.
This was the mulligan.
Yeah.
And then SVB happened in March 23. So call it smart or lucky, I'll take either one. But that's those two, and then getting out of the one of the mortgage businesses, that was 70% of the bank that I inherited. That is now totally different.
So 90% of the people and 70% of the businesses.
90% of the people, 70% of the assets.
Wow. You put that into capital. So your ratios have gone through the roof. Your tangible is over 10%.
12, over 12.
Over 12? Was it CTI1 is over 12?
Yeah.
CTI1 is over 12%. Basel III would have that minimum at 4.5, somewhere in there to give a sense of how big that is. So you talked earlier about kind of the thought of, and it was JP Morgan Chase, a fortress balance sheet that says, I'm going to have a balance sheet that may have excess, but I'm waiting for something to go wrong. And when it does, I'm going to pounce on it. The flip side to that, though, is you've got a lot of extra capital sitting there. Do you have pressures to return some of that capital to your shareholders? And or what are other folks looking at and saying, hey, I've got a Texas Capital now that's got excess capital. It's cleaned up. With that capital, are you a buyer or seller?
So I love this conversation.
Good question.
I mean, talk to a bank CEO that hadn't had any capital, and then he gets some.
What do you do with it?
It is awesome. I'm going to sit on it. I'm going to drag it around and just enjoy it. So what I tell investors all the time, I guess two things. We have returned capital. We bought back during this period about 15% of the company at below tangible book. Pretty good capital allocation. And then we do have a lot of capital. We've actually, I'm going to take a little divergent. We actually created more capital because in the business we shrank, that mortgage warehouse business that we got rid of, we still have about 15% of our assets are mortgage warehouse, but it's not a mortgage warehouse anymore because we restructured it. We lend to mortgage companies through an SPE structure, so we don't care about what we do, but we're not beholden to the obligor. It's an SPE structure. If something goes wrong, we grab the collateral and sell it off our desk. Well, because it's so much less risky, the capital you hold against it's called risk-weighted assets, is not 1, it's 27%. So now the loan we make in that mortgage warehouse is a high-returning loan, and I shouldn't call it mortgage warehouse. We're going to think of a name for it. Through that structure is a high-returning loan, and 100% of those clients are doing treasury management with us, and 77% of those clients are doing business with our broker-dealer, meaning sales and trading. So
you're getting fees.
That's generating more capital.
You're getting fees off on the side.
We're getting fees. We're funding the bank. We're relevant to them. It's a vertical.
Well, you had gone and you went hard on the fees. I mean, you got a run rate on on fees of over $200 million, roughly double where it was in 2021, 2022. That's a big shift.
More than double. It is a big shift. Fees are not slowing down, and I'm really, really happy about that. And it just goes into the relevance of what you're doing and how many different things we're doing for the same clients. But as far as the capital is concerned, I tell shareholders all the time so I have some shareholders now that call me Texas excess capital instead of Texas capital, which it's very flattering. But they don't mean it to be flattering. But I try to explain to them just how tangible it is. Mm-hmm. So if I'm walking into a middle market or small corporate business, and I'm talking to the CEO or board, and I ask you to bring your liabilities here and your business here, and I have taken more provisions since CECL day one than any peer bank, and I have more capital and more liquidity and a great track record and credit, you feel safe about coming over here. Yeah. That whole just mind thought is gone. That translates into business and to equity. So I think we're actually getting a return of that capital. Where we're not getting a return, I think in the future we'll prove we're getting a return on that capital. Where we're not getting the right return yet is that we have all these products and services built into the platform, but all the cost is there. We haven't scaled it yet. Not one business we have is at scale. Public finance is new. Equity is new. I told you, we just did our first deal. Mm-hmm. We haven't done our 500th deal.
It's new.
Sales and trading is new. We've done about 400 billion of notional trades. It's all profitable, but it's not at scale. Our corporate card, which is on the same corporate card platform as Money Center Bank, because we didn't skimp on these product services. We can't compete with lesser products. Is the 16th largest transaction volume card in the country, largest in Texas, and it's not at scale. It's new. So nothing is at scale. So my pitch to a shareholder, if you want to buy stock, is all we have to do is scale. Yeah. The strategy works. We onboarded new clients, more clients every year since we've been here than we did the year before, and every year has been a record. But more importantly than that, and this is what we stress all the time, and this is how we built the bank. I said in the September 1st, 2021 call, we'll be defined by our clients. We don't want to bank everybody. We only want to bank the best clients in our markets. And before we didn't, and today, we're not banking all the best clients, but we sure as hell banking a large handful of clients.
Well, and that's terrific, but a lot of that was talked about, Rob, in the context of customers. Mm-hmm. You still have to deal with a market.
Yes.
And that market is going to look at it and say, you do have that excess capital, and or you've got a vulnerability, not only on the capital side, but as you just said, I've got all these operations that are sub-optimized.
For sure.
I hope they're going to grow at some point, but today they're sub-optimized. That's usually a good buy.
That's usually a good buy. And based on how fast they're growing, one would suggest they're going to continue to grow because they're not slowing. But for time, we'll optimize and scale.
So, but you believe you can get there, that gets optimized, as well as utilize the capital before your hand is forced in effect by the market.
Well, the market, I mean, look, we improved profitability as measured by ROA more than any bank in the country these past 5 years.
Right. You've hit 1.3% Q3 of last year.
Which is exactly when we said we'd do it.
Well, your target was 1.1% in 2025.
That's right. And then we improved tangible common equity, tangible assets more than any bank in the country, 20 billion or above at the same time. So the market's actually pretty happy with us. We still don't have an optimized valuation, and nor would I, because we have a little bit longer to go. But we're way ahead of where we thought we'd be. And so we're perfectly comfortable with it. Our shareholder base, to your point, when I got there, it was 100%, well, not 100. The vast majority was hedge funds that didn't like Texas Capital. They just played volatility. Regional bank volatility. If you want to have the most volatility, you buy the worst regional bank. If that's your investment, they bought us. Now we have the best institutional investors in banking. T. Rowe, Wellington, Black. We have the best. And so the shareholder response to this has been awesome.
You've used the term as we talk about that. And again, we've talked to some of the treasury operations. You flipped up an investment banking operation from square zero to a significant player, as we talked about. $30 billion worth of debt, $19 billion on the left side. So some pretty significant. I mean, that's flipping up an investment banking operation from zero is not an easy exercise. Clearly, you brought a background in that, but that's still a tough exercise. So you've created, and you've used the word before, toys, that you've got a lot of toys now. But it begs the question, with all of these toys, with the success that you've had, you still have something sitting out there called JP Morgan Chase that's got a lot of toys and has $3 trillion, not $30 billion.
Right.
How do you play in an environment like that?
So this is, it's actually a pretty easy sale. So if all this business is hard, first of all. So let me take that back. But the explanation is pretty simple. The doing it is hard. What we would like to suggest is we're going to out-global the local banks. So all the local banks, name the best ones, they can't do 90% of what we can do. Mm-hmm. And we're going to out-local.
Yeah, they don't have the toys. They don't have the toys.
Or the expertise. They can't. We try to compete on value add and consistent advice. So it's out-global the local, out-local the global. And it's really resonated. Like I'm telling you, people that you all know that may be banking at these money center banks for some things are banking with us for a lot of other, and they love the idea of local decision making, consistent policies. Maybe banks. I'm in the fossil fuel business. I'm not. I'll bank companies that make ammunition. By the way, they make ammunition for our armed forces and first responders.
Exactly. Yeah.
How's that bad? Yeah. So we'll do God's work. Well, we don't bank the sin business. Yeah. Porn or other things. But if it's legal, I'm not here to legislate. Yeah. And we're certainly going to support national security and other things and bank fossil fuels and the like.
So I want to touch on a potential risk in the market for you. Private credit. It's been likened to the subprime mortgage crisis.
You have a podcast voice. Do you know that?
Thank you. That's the best compliment I've gotten here. I'll take that.
He's just trying to ease the question.
I know. So talk to us about your view on private credit. I think 2025, there's $25 billion across various platforms that y'all invested in. Where do you see it? Is it a bubble? Is it not? Where are we going?
And are you banking it?
So they look, there's about $1.5 trillion of private credit. That's a very tiny capital market. Sounds big, but it's small compared to everything else.
Wow, the number I've heard thrown around, Rob's $40 trillion.
No. It's a small capital market. It is, there was a rush to do it. It's a very young capital market. When there's a rush to do it, this is just one person's view. I don't know. This is my proposition. When there's a rush to do it, there's people doing it that had never done it before. You got a credit officer at a bank. You got a credit officer on a capital markets desk from a high yield desk at some firm. You got institutional buyers at asset managers that are in the credit space, but they haven't done it themselves. Okay, so they went to a firm, started it. There was a rush, and oh, by the way, you know how you say in business, you put dollars out the door. So you're putting dollars out the door at a pretty big rate, trying to beat the index to get your next fund, and you've never done it before. What could go wrong? And so I think that's what's happened. But what's added to that is now the converse of that is there's damn good people invested in private credit. I mean, Blue Owl and there's.
I was going to say, are you bifurcating the market? You've got BlackRock, you've got Blue Owls, you got those folks.
Well, I know you got both
at the top, and then you got a lot of come-latelys.
some of the biggest mishaps been with the biggest brands. So look at Tricolor right here in Dallas.
Yeah.
They came to us 2 or 3 times.
Yep.
First Brands came to us 2 or 3 times. And it was the best quote unquote names on Wall Street that invested in them. You can't be casual about your underwriting, and you can't commit to something just because somebody else is. And I think private credit, the gates went up, so the fund, to protect the funds, and so there wouldn't be mass exits from the funds. That made people uncomfortable because a lot of this private credit went to retail. And maybe too much private credit went to retail. And retail's not used to that. A lot of people aren't used to that. So I think gates hurt. I think the fraud really hurt. And unfortunately, it wasn't just the bifurcated market that got bit by that. It was some of the best players.
And the administration, you mentioned the retail, the administration now wants to allow private debt into 401ks, et cetera. Your thoughts on that?
As much of a libertarian I am, an open market person as I am, I think we could watch the movie a little while longer and then do it. But I probably haven't given that as much thought as I should have for the answer to that question. Okay. Yeah, I'll just leave it at that. Do we bank private credit? Yes. And what we do in our risk business, we do tabletops on everything. For instance, first of all, our liquidity stress tests is like a money center bank. So we do stress tests 4 times a day. We're running them 4 times a day. Like it's running. Like before I got there, we do a stress test. First of all, we didn't know how to do a stress test. Then we do a stress test.
Built it.
It would take 12 hours. And, you did it every once in a while. Now we're doing it. Okay. So we're very focused on stress and risk. That doesn't mean we're not going to make a mistake. We're going to make a mistake, but we're focused on it. On our underwriting, we do portfolio reviews every quarter, not once a year. And we also do tabletops and other risks. So in summer before the election, Trump's talking about doing tariffs on Mexico and Canada. Mm-hmm. We started doing stress testing. What happens if he puts a tariff on Mexico and Canada? By the way, we've done Mideast war conflict stress testing. Mm-hmm. It's turned out a little different than we thought, but it's pretty good to have gone through the process. We stress test. So when something like private credit comes up, we go stress it, look at it, know how to do it. Or was the client selection right? Was the structure right? And right now we have not very much credit to it, but it looks like a lot because non-bank financial institutions, mortgage falls under that, and we still have a lot of that through that one SBE structure I told you about. But the private credit underwriting that we have, we feel really, really good about it. We just re-underwrote it last week.
Cool. Terrific. Before we let you go, I want to come back to the roots.
Okay.
Your family is pretty deep roots here in the business community in North Texas.
Yes, sir.
Grandfather was the founder of Tom Thumb. Your great uncle partnered with him eventually on that.
Yep.
Talk about that story of how they got involved in the business, and then tell us a little bit about the car crash and if you're trying to use that today.
It's so funny. Well, look, I learned Bob and Charles Cullum, who you're referring to, they're classy, really great humans, and from strong belief and character and family and business to giving back. Bob used to always say, and I was young when he died, but I remember it like I was raised with it, service is the rent you pay for the space you take. And I remember when Bob passed, my grandmother was furious, and I didn't really understand it. And she was mad because she had gotten so many calls and notes from people wondering if they were still going to get their monthly money. He was putting people through college, and she was mad, not that he was doing it, but she didn't know who to pay, and he didn't never tell her. And so, some things like that, resonate with you, sure. Giving, but not giving in public, giving when nobody sees it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And they weren't friends with, they didn't sit on boards and go to dinners about bridging South Dallas. They went
out.
to South Dallas.
They did it.
And they were, I guess I would just say, sincere in everything they were doing. They were doing it for clearly people other than themselves. The crash, so they got into the grocery business. My great-grandfather.
Really by accident.
Totally by accident. My great-grandfather was in the wholesale produce business, and a customer went out of business, and they inherited some Toro grocery
The guy ran to
stores.
South Africa, if I remember, or South America, if I remember.
He went somewhere, but he was gone with the money. And so Bob took over the retail part of it, and it wasn't going so well. And store number one, and people don't realize how big a business this was before it went private and sold and went through 8 iterations and really shrank. We were in a bunch of different. We weren't anything. They were in a bunch of different states and a bunch of different lines of businesses, and they did really, really well with a huge market share. But early on, not so much. And they named it Tom Thumb because it was, the little people versus all the giants of Kroger and Safeway.
Yeah, they were known as the little giant of the industry. Yeah.
Right. And they were going to. I think the story has it. I was too young, but they were going to go broke. And the store number one was a store in the doors faced the corner of the northeast corner of Lomo Alto and Lemon, but the door faced towards the corner. It didn't face a side street. Anyway, I just remember that store. A car went through the front of it. There was a wreck, and the insurance money to fix that store got them through the hump, and then they kept going. And so that's a pretty cool story.
And they ran an ad.
Well, you know what? I heard about this ad, but I don't think it has anything to do with the car crash. I think it has to do with, I don't know.
The story I heard was they then turned around and used it at running an ad that says, everybody wants to come to our stores, but take a little bit more time. You don't need to run into it.
That sounds like Bob.
I want to touch on one other thing, being a local guy. Y'all Street. Texas, Dallas, growth of the financial services space here in the city. Talk about Goldman moving here and the other institutional firms that are moving here. And
long-term, how you look at this market. You came back, you're running largest regional bank. What do you think of this market?
Well, first of all, I wouldn't have tried to do this anywhere else but here. Anywhere else. Like that would have been the definition of Sandy. Well, I'll tell you why. Texas has led the country in GDP growth, job growth, population growth, participation rate for a larger company, a larger state, for 4 years. We have 16 Tier 1 universities. We have the second largest workforce. We have the youngest workforce. We have 22% of the U.S.'s exports, $455 billion, is 17% of our economy. It's 1 million jobs. We've got 22 seaports. 12 of them are deep water. The largest port in the country, Laredo. The largest seaport in the country, Houston. And I talked earlier about me going to grad school. That's when we were in the banks failing. That was because we had banking and oil and gas, which killed real estate when they died. Here, not one part of this, not any one segment of the economy is greater than 10%. And oil and gas is 7th largest. And so, and by the way, we're number one in wind and solar too. So the diversity of this economy, the growth of this economy, the talent, education, 92% of North Texas graduate from high school, 90% of kids in the state. It's just a fantastic place to be. More corporate moves. I was on one of Abbott's economic development councils, and we were talking about, typically they had about 250, or maybe between 170 and 250 companies that talked about moving here.
Interested.
It's doubled. And it's been doubled for like 3 years. And the studies show when a company moves here, oh, by the way, the state runs a surplus. Our roads and highways are funded for 10 years. It's just an incredible place to be.
Dreamland.
So
New York City's not in that position.
and then one of the things that Bob was really core to and on the board of when it happened was DFW Airport.
DFW Airport. He was one of the 3 negotiators.
That's right. And the funny story I heard about that, I've heard it from like 10 people. They all say, and I love this about Bob because it all goes to the same kind of person. They said that negotiations stalled like 3 times. And then the last time, the hard ass from Fort Worth got up to go to the bathroom. Bob went to the bathroom with him. They came out and they had a deal. That's kind of cool. I hope that's true. I don't know if it's true. But as far as Wall Street, you can go, there's more direct flights than anywhere in the world out of DFW. You've got a pro-business environment that's huge. You've got a low-tax state, which there's nothing wrong with that, by the way. You just ask what's happening in everywhere else in the country. You got a state legislature that passed 3 bills last year, and that are key to this. And so the first one is codification of the business judgment rule, which means if I make a mistake, you can't sue me. If I do something wrong, all bets are off. But it really protects officers and directors, so I can hire better officers and directors. Then the second one is shareholder proposals. You have to have a minimum ownership of my company or any public company, and you have to own it for at least 6 months before the shareholder vote, before you can bring a proposal.
And that came home last week.
And that makes sense.
When a suit got thrown out, I think it was against Southwest Airlines, a couple of hundred shares came back and said, you have to have 17 million or you can't play the game.
Correct. And why not? Like if you have that big of a grievance, invest in it, or like.
Yeah.
So, and then the last one is this, it has to do with the exchanges and why the Texas Stock Exchange is going to be successful, period. And that is the day we passed a constitutional amendment in November of last year to prohibit tax on financial transactions. They were talking about in New York taking away the rebate of the tax that they currently rebate on financial transactions. The law's not repealed. The law's on the books. They just rebate it. It's really easy to take that away. And so now all these firms, their owners in Texas are naturally hedged. So they're going to make it successful. And by the way, it's Citadel, Wells Fargo, JP Morgan, B of A, Texas Capital, Charles Schwab, Fortress. I mean, you got real people in here.
Citadel touches 1 in 4 equity transactions.
Yeah, more than any in the world. Yeah. And so full disclosure, I'm on the standards, governance standards listings council of the Texas, and we invested.
I'm not surprised at that, are you?
We invested. But I think it's, now, I did tell Jim, I did have lunch with Jim. This is a funny story.
Jim Lee, who's the...
Yeah.
See you.
Yeah, Jim and I are very close, and this was, I don't know, a couple years ago. He came to my office, and I said, Jim, we're having lunch. Tom Long is the chair of my audit committee, the CEO of Energy Transfer, and they made a big investment, obviously, or they didn't, Kelsey did. And I said, Jim, do you hear them laughing at you? They're all just laughing at you. They think you're an idiot to do this. And he said, no, Holmes, they're still laughing at you. That's before we hit our goals. So I think he's going to be super successful. And look what he did. He raised a lot of capital. Mm-hmm. And he has hired an unbelievable team. Mm-hmm. And he's in the only market he could do this in. And he has the support of the business community and the political environment as well.
It's great.
Statement, agree or disagree? North Texas is now the center of the U.S. economy.
There's no doubt. Like I said, what other economy is more diverse, has been a leader, GDP, jobs, et cetera, for this long, that the state has a surplus, the legislature's behind you, you have a ton of industrial complex going west, to Fort Worth, that I don't think people appreciate the amount of innovation and military and other things. Affordability, it's getting a little harder, but we still are doing okay.
Compared to California, the tri-states?
Oh, for sure, yep. All that. And if you're going to educate a kid, I mean, you call it, Ivy League's Ivy League. We got 16 of them, baby. 16 Tier 1 universities. There's not another state that can say
universities in the Northeast, applications are going down. They're going way up here.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. And that's another reason why we could attract so many people to here. Mm-hmm. A lot of people who we hired are from New York and California. Don't worry, they think like us. Otherwise, I wouldn't hire them. And we can't wash it off and we'll send it back. No, I'm kidding. We have a lot of great people that have moved here. And because their kids moved here
Mm-hmm.
to go to school here and college. And then they wanted to move here and then retire here. And we have great businesses in California and New York and all over the country. Frankly, we have an office in LA. We have an office in Chicago. We have office in New York. And those are awesome environments and formidable, but they don't compete with us.
Yeah, they're going to come here. Kyle, you've seen a bank in a pretty short period of time, 5 years, take an efficiency ratio from 81% to 56%. We talked about the shift so that it's become a fee-oriented as opposed to wetting on the lending side. ROA has gone up to 1.3%, shattered everything. I don't know about you, but I think you need to go long in TCB.
Long TCB. We love it.
Over the last hour or so, we've seen, Rob, we've seen your leadership. We've seen what a difference that you've made. It is really fun to see somebody that came in, took an institution that a lot of other people would have walked away from and really made a difference in it and did it in such a way that it changed the leadership, changed the culture, and it really adds to a community now where that wouldn't have been the case. We appreciate you being with us, Rob.
Wonderful meeting you both. Thank you. Thank you, brother.
Thank you for watching today's episode. Again, today's episode is sponsored by Clay Cooley Automotive, a family-owned, family-operated automotive company serving the local DFW Metroplex for over 22 years. Thank you for watching today's episode. Again, today's episode is sponsored by Clay Cooley Automotive, a family-owned, family-operated automotive company serving the local DFW Metroplex for over 22 years.